One Piece. Ever heard of it? Of course you have, everyone has. One Piece is pretty well known. And as you may also have heard, One Piece is getting a remake. As I was browsing Twitter yesterday, I came across a tweet from the One Piece official, and it said that we're finally getting a release date. February 2027 is gonna stream worldwide on Netflix. This brand new adaptation of One Piece by Wit Studio that is finally going to do away with all the filler and everything, and we're just gonna get the main story from the manga. And I mean, that's great news for all One Piece fans, and you know, I'm personally not a big One Piece fan, so it doesn't matter that much to me. I did watch parts of the original anime, and I also have read a bit of the manga, but ultimately it wasn't a big deal for me. But I did want to check it out just to see, like, what's a One Piece anime gonna look like when it's not, you know, adapting like a chapter an episode, and now we don't have all the filler. However, I was quickly also made aware about the fact that this is gonna be season 1, which, sure, that's fair, right? Splitting it up into seasons, no problem. But then I came across like Anime News by Air, which says that while this is gonna be streaming from February 2027 on Netflix, like I just said, and it's gonna be directed by Masahi Koisuke at Wit Studio, it also said something that got me a little, I'm not gonna say worried necessarily, but I do find it a little weird. It says that it's gonna adapt the first 50 chapters. Now, it's gonna adapt 50 chapters. It'll be like 7 episodes for season 1, which 7 episodes for a season is incredibly short. And 50 chapters? I mean, I'm sure that looked great on the pitch, but because, you know, 50, it's a big round number, but why 50 chapters? Basically, for those that don't know, One Piece is essentially like broken up into bigger sagas, right? The opening saga is East Blue. It's the East Blue Saga. It contains a bunch of smaller like story arcs inside of it, but East Blue is like the big thing. That's the start of it. However, 50 chapters, that's not the entirety of East Blue, which is weird. Why wouldn't you just do all of East Blue in one season? But okay, they don't want to do that. But why 50 chapters specifically? What is it about 50 chapters that makes this a good stopping point? 50 chapters puts us right in the 4th story arc of the manga, the Baratie arc, which is basically where they meet Sanji, and will eventually, the Straw Hat Pirates meet Sanji and will eventually recruit him. Basically, what's happening here, from what I understand anyways, is that they're going to stop season 1 like 1/3 through a story arc? Which, what? That just seems strange. That just seems like such a weird decision, right? Like, this story arc goes from chapter 42 to 68, 27 chapters. It's not very long, but like, you didn't want to do the entirety of East Blue, which again, that does not make any sense to me, but whatever, okay, sure. But at least finish the arc you're in. Like, what? I do not understand that. Like, I mean, I'm sad in general about that because, you know, after the Baratie arc comes the Arlong Park arc, which is, in my opinion, I was gonna say the best thing about East Blue, but realistically speaking, it's more like it's the only good thing about East Blue, in my opinion anyways. But, you know, that's a different discussion. So, not having that is sad for me, but I don't understand the appeal of stopping a season in the middle, or it's not even in the middle, it's 1/3 through a story arc. That is just odd. I'm sure there's a reason, like, sure, we're stopping, like, before the bad guys pirates invade the restaurant, like, sure. Yeah, that's great, dude. I don't know. It just seems like such a weird decision. I mean, it doesn't even make sense, right? Because even if you look at the live-action adaptation, they literally adopted more in season 1 of that than this does. They went through Arlong Park. They didn't finish East Blue in one season, but they went through a lot more than this. It's just strange to see. And again, I wasn't gonna make a video about this because, like, ultimately, I don't really care if the One Piece remake is good or not. I just think it's kind of strange to have a remake of something that hasn't ended yet, but I guess in the sense that it is One Piece, it makes sense because 1, it's popular, and 2, it's very daunting to get into, especially the anime, because, I mean, the manga too, to an extent, but the anime because, you know, you just look at that episode count and be like 1,000 episodes and like, damn. And then you sit down and you look at it and you're like, I see like 50% of this I don't even need to watch. It just makes it more challenging to get into because now you have to sit down, you have to look up a guide, a guide on how to watch it, like, what episodes do I need to watch and what episodes can be skipped. That's just no fun. I mean, of course, unless you really like filler and just want to experience everything. But yeah, I basically just saw this on Twitter and I figured I would make this short little video just talking about it because, again, it's such a weird decision. Like, I feel like we've been talking about the One Piece remake for so long at this point, and I know that it takes a long time to make anime, do not get me wrong. I'm not sitting here saying like, they should have been able to do more in this time. That's not really my point, but it's like, why not just hold off on this until we've gotten through everything in East Blue? And then we release season 1, that's East Blue. We move on to the next one, right? Like, that would make sense, but I guess that's the problem. That wouldn't make sense. Yeah, I'm personally not a big fan of this news. I don't think this sounds like a good idea to do it this way. The thing that I'm a little bit worried about, especially because this is on Netflix, is I am worried that this is done just to gauge interest, if there's actually going to be any interest in this. Because, you know, Netflix is not shy of canceling shows that don't do well or do as well as they want them to. But at that point, it's like, why are we remaking One Piece when it's still ongoing, by the way, just to, like, release one season of 7 episodes and then being like, sorry, the entire anime fandom didn't come to Netflix to watch this. We're gonna cancel it. Now we're just sat there with 7 episodes and an unfinished arc. Okay? I guess the best thing that's gonna come out of this then, that could come out of this, I guess, is if it's announced like immediately upon this dropping that like, and the next part is coming in, and just like, I'm just gonna say a year, but preferably probably even less than that. But you know, that it's just like, this is just what we have now, and then the next thing is coming, and then we're continuing that. Then it's just gonna be like a weird seasonal divide that just makes no sense. But it's just weird decisions. I'm not a fan of this. To any like actual One Piece fans, I'd love to hear what you actually think about this. Are you excited about the One Piece remake, or does news like this make you raise an eyebrow, I guess? I'd love to know. For me personally, I don't think a One Piece remake is necessary at this moment in time, because again, the show's still ongoing. The show, well, it's no longer seasonal, or it's no longer weekly, but it is still not finished because the manga is still ongoing. So having a remake while the previous series is still in production is, I don't think we've seen that too many times. But for the sake of just trimming out the filler and fixing the pacing of, you know, 1 chapter an episode, I guess that part makes sense, but that's about it. That's all I got. So yeah, that's basically all I've got for this video. Just sort of a short, unscripted video. I don't normally do this. I don't usually find the need to do them, but this was just such a bizarre thing that I needed to rant about it. I needed to rant to myself, really, and I figured, why not? It's been a while since I uploaded, and I'm still working on videos, hopefully, so yeah, well, hopefully I am working on videos, so that should be coming, and hopefully not too far in the future. But yeah, I'll talk more about that some other time. But yeah, alright, that is it for me. Peace.